Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Colorado and Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, Shiloh Sanders, Travis Hunter, LeJohntay Wester. Colorado beats Cincinnati on Saturday night to improve to 6-2 and 4-1 in the Big 12. And so I want to talk about this story because, listen, I will say this, okay? Let's go ahead and dive in. Colorado 6-2. They're bowl eligible. They're very much in the Big 12 title picture. But at the same time, what I think has been so cool is that they're just quietly winning football games. There's not a lot of noise. There's not a lot of off-the-field stuff. And I will admit this. A year ago, when all the hype started, when they beat TCU, there were a lot of people guilty in the media of getting too excited too quickly, playing up everything that Deion Sanders did. And you know who was one of them? This guy right here, okay? I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to deny it. I was a Coach Prime truther. And I still think, by the way, he went from 1-11 to 4-8 a year ago. That is a significant improvement. But the bottom line is they did start 3-0. They did finish 1-8, and there were a lot of struggles down the stretch, and there were a lot of question marks going into the offseason. And I go back to that Nebraska game, and I'll be honest, I remember, and people are going to get in the comments, and you're right. After the Nebraska game, I just said they're 1-1. They get beat up really bad. I don't know how much we're actually going to be talking about them going forward. Well, since that Nebraska game, they're 5-1. Their only loss was to Kansas State in a game where Travis Hunter got hurt, wasn't playing. Jimmy Horn got hurt, wasn't playing. So that's basically your two best wide receivers or two of your three best wide receivers. And oh, by the way, even with that, oh, by the way, Shiloh Sanders, of course, your starting safety, was coming off injury. He was rusty. But by the way, even with all that, you know what's crazy? Colorado had the lead in the fourth quarter against Kansas State and easily could have won that game. So that is their only loss since the second week of the season. Destroyed Colorado State. They did need some good fortune against Baylor. But even the Baylor game, if you actually watched it, they were kind of in control the entire second half. They gave up a punt return at one point, or a kickoff return at one point for a touchdown. They were the better team for about the final probably 35 to 40 minutes before that Deion Sanders deep pass forced overtime. But they beat Baylor, destroy UCF. The Kansas State game happened. They destroyed, who else? Who am I missing here? They destroyed somebody, and then they beat Cincinnati last week. Why am I missing a game? I can't remember. It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is that they are now 6-2 and 4-1 in the Big 12. And I just want to give Coach Prime credit because a year ago, it was easy to get too high, but it was easy to get too low with this program. Well, now, if you're not denying that this is a great coach, that this is a great program builder, that he has a plan, that he is executing that plan, then I'm sorry. You just do not know what the heck you're talking about. And I keep going back to this because I have said this quite a bit. Even when I was a little bit down on this team, I remember saying, like, you go back to 2 years ago and the first offseason he took over when he kind of came in, he said, I'm bringing my own luggage and it's Louis. A lot of people were forced out of the program, but at that point, it was just about filling out bodies. And really this offseason, if you look at all the guys that he brought in, he was selective, but he hit on a ton. BJ Green from Arizona State has been awesome on the defensive line. LeJohntay Wester, wide receiver from Florida Atlantic, has been awesome. His brother, Jalen Wester, is, I believe, I'm tripping on his name, but Jalen Wester, awesome on the defensive side of the ball. Preston Hodge, cornerback, awesome on the defensive side of the ball. And what I want to just take a moment to do is two things. I want to fully explain how crazy this Coach Prime rebuild is, okay? Because I think everyone's saying, oh, Torres, you were the one that said, no. Here's the truth. And I tweeted this out. Producer Matt, you can pop the tweet if you haven't. But Colorado 2 years ago was 1-11 in the year that he took over, okay? Of their 11 losses, 10 were by 21 or more points. And I'll tell you this, I went back and looked it up. I'm just going to read some of this to you. In the year before Coach Prime took over, They lost by 42 to Minnesota. I don't think Minnesota scored 42 in a game in the last 2 years. They lost by 42. They lost by 23 to Arizona, 33 to Oregon State, 39 to Oregon, 33 to USC, 47 to Washington, and 42 to Utah, okay? And so for that team to, first of all, just go 4-8 last year was an accomplishment. But to now be 6-2 this late in the year, and they're very much in the Big 12 title picture. As a matter of fact, with the way the schedule is broken, they're actually in pretty good shape. You look at the schedule. So their final 4 games, okay? Next game might be the toughest. Colorado plays at Texas Tech. They have a bye this week. They call it an open week in college, but they play at Texas Tech. Then Utah at home. Utah is a train wreck, okay? So Utah, I feel bad. I don't think it's Kyle Whittingham's fault that Cam Rising keeps getting hurt, but they're a disaster. Kansas right now is in second to last place. They were picked. They were a preseason top 25 team. They're 2-6, 1-4 in the Big 12. And Oklahoma State was a preseason top 25 team. They're 3-5, 0-5 in the Big 12. So how about this? Colorado goes from the hunter to the hunted, and teams that we thought were going to be the hunters are now going to have to play spoiler down the stretch. But Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, deserves credit for what he has done. By the way, let's give a little credit to the AD, Rick George, too. It's easy to sit here and say, oh, everybody could have seen this coming. No. Remember, the year that Colorado hired him, there were a lot of jobs that opened early that year. That was the year all those jobs opened early. Auburn opened early. Nebraska opened early. Arizona State opened early. Remember, Georgia Tech opened early. I remember doing videos like Georgia Tech. Coach Prime played for the Falcons. Coach Prime played for the Braves. Got to hire him. Arizona State, kind of a cool vibe. Coach Prime's got a cool vibe. But you go back. By the way, I said Auburn should hire him. And I love Hugh Freeze, but, I think Coach Prime would have done well there. But the bottom line is there was only one coach that was willing to hire him. Now, I think Cincinnati, ironically, who Colorado beat on Saturday, got into the mix late. But I don't think it changes the fact that, nobody was people weren't knocking down the door to bring this guy to the FBS level. And I think there were a lot of people that thought, oh, it's going to be a sideshow. And he does the first press conference. This is my son. He's your starting quarterback. And oh my goodness, it's going to be crazy. And all Coach Prime has done, this team has quietly gotten better. You watch them. The crazy part is I don't think they've played their best football the couple of these games. Like the Cincinnati game, a lot of penalties, a lot of this. They won, and they didn't even have to sweat it. So give Colorado credit. I am so excited to watch this over the final 3 or 4 weeks. They need some help. Kansas State and Iowa State play on the final week of the season, so one of those teams is going to take at least one loss. But, they're going to need somebody to lose somewhere along the way, and then I don't know how tiebreakers would work. They'd have to win out from there. But I'll tell you this, listen, for a BYU fan listening, for a Kansas State fan listening, for an Iowa State fan listening, no disrespect intended to your program. If this team makes the playoff, it would be so freaking cool. I don't care. Man, I don't care. I feel like Will Ferrell and Elf. I'm in love, and I don't care who hears it, okay? I want Colorado that playoff. I think Shedeur, Travis Hunter, it would be so electric. We'll see what happens. They need some help, but this is a great story.